kind of causing illness to the kid, to this girl, and then her and meeting Gypsy and this guy that she had met on of all places, a Christian dating site, to basically conspire to kill her mother, who had been doing this to her whole life. And I'm getting into the good, I don't want to say good stuff. It's a horrible, horrible story if you really think of it, but just watching this stuff, it's fascinating. It really is very fascinating. Just watching a little bit more of that, and man, just this stuff's so messed up. And it's really amazing, like the stuff that, the people that are in the world. But if you get a chance, go take a look at it. I'm watching it by YouTube actually, because I was trying to search for, I think the movie, because they made a Hulu movie or something out of it called The Act. Really, I didn't watch that either, but through that I was very tempted to look at more. So that's very interesting, kind of. Anyway, back to the pro wrestling talk. So let's talk about really quickly here. I'm going to pull the news article up here. Let's see. From Ringside News, AEW files multiple trademarks for WCW event names. And this article is by H. Jenkins and says, quote, AEW is getting a lot of things in order, and one thing that they need is catchy names for their events. Do they need it? No, they don't need it. But, well, let's read on. They are going to run Double or Nothing and Fight for the Fallen, but there could be some very interesting ones coming as well. PW Insider reports that Cody Rhodes filed for trademarks on Battle Bowl, Bash at the Beach, interesting, and Bunkhouse Stampede on March 18th, which is on Monday. If AEW is able to secure those names, it could not only be great names they can use, but nostalgia will also be attached in a big way. Figure Cody with Dusty, and I almost have a feeling that they might, maybe, because again, they're in Florida, the AEW headquarters, so I wouldn't be surprised if they did a Bash at the Beach kind of show. But with that being said, let's keep going. Cody also filed a trademark for Prince of Wrestling, which could also be, which could very well be a moniker he wants to use, or at least retain ownership of for a later date. This is very interesting. You can provide fans with a very good idea about what All Elite Wrestling could be planning. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Bash at the Beach, again, you're in Florida, makes sense. It was also, you think of Bash at the Beach and you think of, you think of, the famous turn of Hogan joining the NWO and basically changing the course of pro wrestling history from there. So that's a very interesting one to think about right there. The other one, Bunkhouse Stampede, I guess you would think of Dusty in that way. And Battle Bowl is another one that has been talked about. But they've also been having trouble with certain trademarks of their own for All Elite Wrestling itself and for other things. It's actually becoming very interesting at this point. But to be honest, I think the thing I'm most surprised about, because I don't know about Bunkhouse Stampede or Battle Bowl, I'm not so sure about those two, but Bash at the Beach, definitely a WCW trademark. I mean, again, my lady works with intellectual property, and we could talk about that on another episode of the show. That wasn't still trademarked by the WWE because you see it on the net. I don't know if they call it the Bash or if they call it Bash at the Beach. Now, I'll look at it later and kind of see where it's at. But it's very interesting to point out. It's interesting to me that that's not a WWE trademarked event anymore. Which then leads me to believe that that Bash of the Beach is actually just the Bash on a network, which I believe is the case, but I'm not 100% certain. So it's interesting. It actually is really interesting to see what they're going to do with it. I'm sure Cody wishes that WWE hadn't filed for Stockade, that's an independent wrestler, Starcade. I'm sure they wanted to, but they can't now because I think WWE uses like a live show event every year. I don't know what they're going to wind up doing with it going forward because you know damn well if Starcade wasn't already taken by the WWE, that All Elite Wrestling would be all over it, and that would be their big show. Again, they're still going through a couple of different trademark battles right now where they're trying to get the name All Out in as a trademark. 2 other applications are in for All Out. We'll see what kind of legal battles go on with that. They're also trying to they're trying to trademark wrestling and All Elite Wrestling, and that's a battle in of itself. And this is where I really wish I could have an intellectual attorney on to talk about this a little bit more, because this is it's really interesting that the legal aspects of all this, in which where they go from here, and the whole story. So it'll be interesting because they're filing those trademarks, but are they all the one event I would like to see trademarked, Halloween Havoc. The other event I'd like to see trademarked, maybe Sold Out instead of All Out. You could have Sold Out. Super Brawl is another one that was a big WCW title as far as pay-per-view. Super Brawl, Spring Stampede. Again, they're doing Bunkhouse Stampede instead. There's a lot. It'll be interesting to see where they go from there, and it'll be even more interesting names of events that are not trademarked by the WWE. So obviously, the Khan's legal team and Cody and all of them are really looking into all of this stuff to see what they can do. So it'll be very interesting to see. I almost have a feeling too that they're going to be looking. Now that I brought up Starcade, that they're going to bring up Starcade. They're going to try and get the rights to the name Starcade. So it'll be very interesting. It'll be very interesting to see where it goes from here. That's the AEW thing, and let's talk about this really quick too before I get to another break. WWE moving headquarters to new office building, selling Titan Towers. Now, I can tell you already, I guess I get it, but Titan Towers, man, talk about significant pro wrestling history. The likes of Andre the Giant have probably walked through those halls. I'll say probably he has. Andre the Giant, Hulk Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Steve Austin, Rock, Triple H, obviously, because he works there. Undertaker, all the who's who of pro wrestling has walked through those halls. Flair, Harley Race, I'm sure, among many others. And, it's one of those things where I wish those walls could talk. Because I can't imagine the stories that building could tell between arguments of Vince McMahon and talent, or talent amongst one another, or executives against one another, among many things. The deals that impossibly have been talked about, phone conversations. You think of the time, or the story that has gone around where Abyss was just a little, within minutes of signing with WWE and canceling last minute, and all these big talents canceling on contracts or saying no. You think of the Bucks and Cody. You think of AJ Styles, before he eventually signed. You think of, Kenny Omega. And once they get off the phone there, it's like, motherfucker, you can just hear it. And then the discussion amongst other, wrestling people of, the Bucks turned down the deal, or Cody turned down the deal, or Kenny turned down the deal. And you can imagine that some phone conversations were had, or meetings in Stanford of, damn, Gallows and Anderson don't want to renew. Okay, I guess we're going to have to deal with this. Or, when the Hardys were coming back. You look at the documentaries when Sting has his first meeting in Stanford, and when Kurt Angle returns for the first time in years, and they show Vince McMahon and him hugging, and then Vince kicks him out, the camera crew out, because he wanted to talk in private. Again, could you imagine what those walls would say? Things that had happened. I mean, that's one of if that building could talk, man. I mean, the stories would just be ongoing. Unbelievable. But anyway, I continue. Let's see. This is posted by Ryan Satin of Pro Wrestling Sheet. WWE headquarters in Stamford, Connecticut are moving, and the plan is to sell their current office space, famously known as Titan Towers. And that's a big-ass building, to be honest. The company put out a press release which states the following, quote, WWE today announced that the company will move its global headquarters to a new office complex at 677 Washington Boulevard in Stamford, Connecticut. So they're not moving to Orlando, which you would imagine they would have been doing, considering a lot of the business, especially developmental, is going on. That they wouldn't be moving their headquarters down to Orlando or something. It continues stating, this move will allow the company to bring together its operations, including its production studios and corporate offices at its new site. I always thought that their production studios were there. Unless they're talking about the WWE studios, like the film companies. It goes on to say, quote, one of the most important elements necessary to execute WWE's long-term growth strategy is world-class talent collaborating seamlessly to create compelling content. Our workplace initiative will be the foundation to meet these objectives and underpins our ability to deliver long-term value, said George Barrios, WWE co-president. The article continues to say, WWE says the new office will provide the company with workspace, quote, suited to its growing and evolving workforce. The move is expected to happen early